Dandelions. Frickin' dandelions. See, the thing about dandelions is they're very prevalent, or they're, what's the word? In Ontario, in the summer, they are everywhere. So even if you have a lawn that's like this lawn, and many lawns that I service, the dandelion is quite pertinacious. What's the word? It's everywhere, and usually people spray their lawns to get rid of the dandelions. I'm just taking a stroll right now. Wasn't even looking to make a video, but the thing is, you know, I just noticed these things like the dandelions. It's like the theme of the dandelions. Long grass dandelions along the roadside. The theme of the video is still dandelions. And I just was driving along, got a coffee, was heading back home, and I just happened to, I don't know if you can really see, but this is all dandelions. So that's the thing about these boulevards, like over here. It's just nothing but dandelions and weeds. And so that's why people kind of hate the dandelion, because it sort of makes, like, to me, I don't actually think bad things about the dandelion that pops up along here and that is like taking over boulevards and like strips of lawn. Like, this is just how it is in Ontario. Like this thing right here, this roundabout, it's nothing but dandelions, and no one's mowing it because I guess the city schedule is, you know, not prioritizing that circular lawn there. And if you go over here, we were just over here driving back the other way now, you see a lot of, like right here is a good example of dandelions along the entire thing. There's like thousands of them. But it's not shocking at all for someone that's from here like me to see, you know, non-stop dandelions, because that's just what happens in the summer. Like, we have grass, we have, like, this is sort of a rural place, you know. It's not like, this is not New York City or it's not Tokyo or some kind of concrete jungle where there's nothing but buildings. There's a lot of just like spaces that are, you know, green. And so you can't have, it's impossible to have a purely grass covered, well manicured, like you'd have to be out here every day spraying and mowing and trimming just to get rid of all these weeds, a lot of which are dandelions. I would say the vast majority of these weeds are not dandelions. There's just like switchgrass, you know, tall wild grass, just sprouts of weeds everywhere, like different types of weeds. Like, these boulevards are made up of probably like 20 different green weeds, of which dandelions are a part of the part of the boulevard. So, you know, being a gardener type person, like, I obviously notice the different weeds that are here, and the dandelions are, you know, just a part of the landscape. So I would never think like, you know, we have to destroy every dandelion, because A, they're healthy, and B, it would be impossible. So I can understand it in the context of someone's lawn, because, you know, people want to keep their properties looking like the value of their property up. They want it to look tidy, and dandelions do make it look wild. And like, when things look too wild, it's sort of like, you know, it's like it starts to look like, you know, the property's not maintained. People, you know, homeless people could come along and think that it's empty or evicted or whatever. So yeah, here we are looking at some more properties and scoping out the dandelion situation. There's some right there. They're everywhere. There's no escaping them. You know, even this church, which looks like it takes pretty good care of the property, you still see them popping out. Like, even if, you know, it's there's like this property, these people look like they have a lot of money, they have some dandelions kicking around. They're just everywhere. It's like one of the more pervasive you know, weeds that we have. But the term weed is sort of a relative term because you know, like, they don't have to sell. It's like buy and sell, supply and demand. You know, they're not going to sell dandelions, generally speaking, when you know, I don't hear about too many people that go to the garden store and buy dandelions. They're just something that they're everywhere already. So if the supply is like 10 trillion dandelions, then the demand is going to be like pretty low for the average dandelion, even though they have their benefits. You know, people don't pay for things that are just there like as an invasive kind of like spore, right? Because that's sort of what makes certain things wild and what makes other things, you know, something you buy at the store. Because if you're looking to beautify your property and you are, you know, putting things in different places like trees and perennials and you know, different gardens and different landscaping things, right? Like, you're making a patio. Like, for instance, patios are, you know, usually the enemy of like long stocky weeds. So there's dandelions all along here. So you don't, yeah, with patios, they specifically look bad when there's weeds growing out of them like all over the place. So, and you know, gardens also look bad when, you know, if you mulch them and you have, you know, thick dark mulch or like red rocks or like different colors of mulch, whatever you may have. It's usually wants to be like a uniform color, and it looks good when it's uniform, but it doesn't look good when there's things sprouting up from them like dandelions, and dandelions just are so hardy. They grow, and here's some ducks. Some interesting looking ducks right there. Some kind of white looking ducks. But yeah, they grow out of every crack. The spores fly everywhere. Like, when the wind picks up, like, dandelions have like those white things right there. They blow in the wind and the spores carry and just spread them everywhere. So they're very like easy to transplant because they plant themselves. I have this book on trees, and in the book on trees, it talks about how trees actually communicate with each other in different settings, right? Like, all trees have an underground root system, and they communicate, according to this book, through like different I don't know if you'd call them pheromones, or they put things out into the soil and they also like things are carried on the wind, so like smells and different things. It was saying something about how trees, if there's some kind of like, say there's locusts or some kind of like beetle or something that's going to eat the trees, or there's like a situation in the forest where there's like something's happening that's hurting some trees, they will send a message somehow to trees that are down the line a bit, just to you know, warn them. So that there was a story about how there was some kind of you know, incursion of insects, and they were attacking some trees, and the trees sent a message to some other trees, and when the bugs got to the other trees, the trees in the other area were prepared, and they had some sort of like, you know, sort of like material on the leaves, or they had secreted something that let that they were basically communicated to from the other trees. So it sounds kind of weird, but you know, trees and plants communicate in their own way, but people just don't, you know, think about their communication because, you know, they don't, it's like a different language. So And there's things where trees sort of like have a, when they are in groups together, like in a forested area like this, trees, they're all vying for the light, and they're all like, the root systems are all, like, some trees will kill other trees to get resources. Other trees will cooperate with other trees to share resources. And it's very much like humans, because humans are the same way, where they fight over resources. When things get dire, they basically like become animals, and they just don't care about, like, they'll go wild and just like get crazy, and you have wars and things like that, battles, fights, whatever. Like, people will, if they are desperate, they will, do desperate things. And trees are similar in the sense of like, they will cooperate, but they also will fight each other. And to bring it back to dandelions, I guess, if there is a conversation that humans don't know about between trees and like weeds or whatnot, obviously the dandelions are part of the conversation, because they are, very very much all over the place. So, and the other plants don't, they just like live in amongst other plants. So like, that field right there is like, say, 25%, 50% dandelions, and the other plants that are in the field are not like immediately trying to kill the dandelions themselves. So humans can try to kill the dandelions, but it's difficult, because it's sort of like trying to kill, like, an ant colony or something like that, where there's just so much of it that it's kind of pointless, and you shouldn't even try to do it. But people are very particular about their properties, and they will go to great lengths to make things look a certain way, even though everyone knows that there's no way you can completely control your property. The second you turn around, there's something will happen. Like, there could be things that happen to your property that are completely out of your control, like the weather, and certain invasive insects. Like around here, we had this kind of beetle that was like eating the trees, and people were trying to like deal with it in some way. So it was like a problem for several years, and yeah, it was like you could try to stop them, but they were like, they had taken up residence in the area, and they were here to like do damage to the trees, or eat the bark, or crawl around, or just cause problems. And yeah, so similarly, like with dandelions, you can pull them out, you can rip out your whole lawn and like reseed it, you can do different things. But dandelions are, they are going to be here, they want to be here more, as much as we do, and there are more of them. Like along here, there's this like there's grass, there's dandelions, like you just turn around and there's a dandelion. So you can like, go on a warpath and try to get rid of them, but you will be challenging, because unless you're using a lot of chemicals on your lawn, there are people around here that have very perfectly coiffed, green, perfectly consistent lawns. And those people generally are not doing that by natural means. They're using like different sprays to like control the situation. But the thing is, it's like, it looks, it doesn't look natural. Like, this looks natural to a degree. Like, there's dandelions popping out, but it looks natural in that, like, you wouldn't drive by and go, like, and be like disgusted and say like, oh, like, what is that person doing? I have to not kill this animal. No squirreling. Yeah, like, people don't drive by these kind of houses around here and go like, oh my God, look at all these dandelions. Like, look at all that grass. Like, why doesn't someone mow this? Why doesn't someone just remove all that stuff? It's like, this is rural living, like, this is just, you're in the country. People like those green things. They're just, it's part of the surroundings, and people are like at peace with it. So one of the major things in life, I guess, is, to get philosophical for a second, is people are out of balance with, nature. They're out of balance with themselves. They are trying to control everything. You know, which isn't to say you should just like, you know, let everything go completely out of control, but there's a certain amount of control you have to exert to like be at one with your surroundings, right? So you don't want to put too much effort in because it's not necessary. You don't want to put no effort in because it is. There needs to be some effort put in order to you know, occupy your space that you're in. So with dandelions, I don't go around with a vendetta against dandelions. I like them. It depends on the situation. Some people hate them. They are generally good. They look nice. They're pretty when they're like fully blooming or whatever. They're, you know, the yellow is very, very nice sometimes to see like a field full of dandelions. More dandelions. I'll just kind of walk along here and you can see the situation. Because, yeah, most people around here basically take care of things. Like, most lawns are either mowed or chemically treated, and you don't see too many of these, but then all of a sudden, yeah, you do see a lot of them because they'll just, okay, here we go. Okay, this is what I was thinking might happen right here. So you're walking along, singing a song, and then boom, you're like, it's Dandelion City. And then you're like, well, maybe that's just that house, like, you know, no big deal. And then boom, there it is again. Because they, you know, some people go away for the long weekend or on vacation, and when they do that, the dandelions, which are very good at spreading, there's one, even when they don't take over the lawn, they're just like, there's one there, they kind of just grow haphazardly, and then a bunch of the spores will get onto some lawn and just sort of take over. Like this one's long, but it's not like the whole lawn like the last one. But yeah, this is the theme of the video, is dandelions. And just the thing is, they're not bad. They arguably interrupt the kind of flow of a green lawn. Like they're stocky, and they pop up, and they kind of just they look unsightly to some people, but in reality, you can make tea with them, you can eat them. They're good, they're healthy. Field of dandelions, it's very cool. We'll keep it on top of things. Then you spot one over there, and you're like, hey, there's one. And you're like, okay, I guess that's just one. And you're like, hey, there's one over there. There's one right there. But they haven't, like, it's not an incursion, it's not an encroachment. Like, these lawns are actually pretty well maintained. I was gonna say, but up ahead, I can see, I spy with my little eye, some more dandelions on the boulevard, because Boulevard's city property. They don't get up here as much. They usually wait till things are way out of control before they, I don't know how often they come up here, but it's usually like here we got a fair number of them. You can sort of see how they've taken over this plot. And they're usually along the roadsides and boulevards. But, you know, for me, I'm like, I don't hate them. I don't even dislike them. There's a lot of stuff here that, like ragweed right there. My arch enemy, ragweed. But yeah, basically, I have nothing against dandelions. Although, when you're talking about people's property, like front lawn kind of thing, that's when it starts to like look bad, when there's kind of like you know, they make the yard look kind of sketchy. So you have to kind of like say something like this. This is a good example of like unmaintained. It's like a dirty mattress in the middle of the lawn. Over there you've got, you know, unmowed, unkept. Like, the argument is that it lowers property value, which you know, obviously it is a factor. It's sort of an ongoing debate with the idea of, you know, the idea of a bad looking lawn really reducing the value of a property, like say that, where it's just not maintained. It's like having like food on the corner of your mouth, or like, you know, gunky teeth or something, because when somebody encounters the property that's for sale, they're gonna think one of two things. They're gonna think, oh, I can just mow this, no problem, I can handle this. This is just a cosmetic thing. I can easily just, you know, fix it and have it sort of under control within like a day. So you have those kind of people that are like looking at properties like, and basically not being intimidated by the dandelions or the ragweed or the clover or the weeds or the scrub grass or the thistles or just the spiny weeds that grow everywhere. Some people don't care. Like some people, these people for instance, I don't know them, but they mow their lawn. There are some weeds. It's not very patchy. Like it's not perfect. It's definitely scrubby and patchy, but then, you know, when the house is being sold, because of the housing market, houses being, you know, inflated prices, certain small things like this, we're looking at more dandelions here and tall grasses, and just the whole idea of, you know, there's a whole lot of things sort of like in play. There's like the boulevard versus the private residential property. There's just like the city workers versus regular people mowing their lawn. There's people buying houses and not caring if the property is unmaintained because they'll maintain it, like this. Like some people just mow it and treat it, and within like a short amount of time it'll be like under control. Other people come to a property which is being sold, for instance, and they'll be put off by the, you know, the maintenance of the property being somewhat unmaintained, and then they'll kind of like, you know, maybe possibly lowball the owner and say like, you know, you wanted 900,000, well, I'll give you like 825,000 because, you know, your shit is not in check. So it sounds kind of crazy that someone could lowball to that extent and say like, well, your property's okay, but, you know, like I'll offer you like 100 grand less. But people do things like that because it's sort of like the overall impression. It's like you could have a very attractive person that, you know, has a big zit on their forehead, and then their social value goes down, kind of thing. So there's those kind of things in play as well. But yeah, I'd say with regards to the dandelions, they are very much everywhere. Like I can just turn my phone and see a lawn that's been sort of engulfed in dandelion action. But on one hand, it doesn't really matter. On another hand, people could see it as a problem, and they want to just, you know, if they want to keep their property trim and looking good, then they might enlist in the Foxy Gardens lawn services, which I provide for a reasonable rate with my team, my dad, and some other folks that I work with. So yeah.